Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Hello, you're welcome to today's edition of our program, Money Radio. And as we have always brought to you, we have the tourism segment of Money Radio, and today we will be exploring the theme youth tourism. Youth tourism is a segment or a specialty in the broad tourism industry. And with me in the studio today is Jerry Emerson, a regular guest on this show. Jerry, you're welcome to today's edition of the program.
Thank you always for having me, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Kayode Falade, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, so on youth tourism, currently most primary and secondary schools are on vacation, holiday, and parents are faced with the challenge of how to make, give their children the best experience this holiday. That is actually where youth tourism comes in. So what options are available, to parents, Mr. Kayode?
Yeah, thank you very much. Tourism, thank God that Nigerians are waking up to tourism now. And we have more awareness now. Unlike in those days that just what is tourism? It's when you eat and you are full that you think of tourism. But now, so that, because of the holiday now, we have youth tourism in the formal setup and also the informal setup.
Yes.
For organized trips,
Okay.
for youth boot camps.
Okay. That's what the formal
The
tourism.
formal tourism.
Okay.
So we have those ones.
Interesting.
Then field trips.
Okay.
Then we have voluntary organizations also doing it on their own. Like Boy Scouts, they have camp, jamborees, all those ones are there. Then the informal one, children going to their friends' place to spend the holiday. Then some of them that are in the urban areas whose parents want to make them to maybe learn their culture, their language. So some of them are sent to the village to go and spend their holidays. This is also tourism.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting perspective. Then, Mr. Jerry, how much of this do we have in a place like Abuja, Federal Capital Territory? How much of these activities, like Mr. Kayode, has just highlighted, do we really have here?
Oh yes, we have quite a number of places, destinations, so to say, around the FCT.
Okay.
You see places like Pape Crush Rock.
Okay.
There's a place there. You see some place like
What's the tourist traffic like at the Pape
yes,
facility?
I mean, the last time I went there, some months ago, I saw quite a number of people.
Okay.
We went as a group, and we were almost like 30, and we still saw people.
30. Well, that's a good number.
Yes, we still saw people there. So
Okay.
how do people get to know this destination is? When people go, they take pictures, they upload it on their status,
Okay.
and then other people get to see.
Okay.
So that is where the migration comes.
Okay.
So
Then much of these activities seem to be happening under the radar. Do we have sufficient publicity, for these programs?
yes, publicity only comes from maybe by word of mouth or
Okay.
by experience that you have.
Okay.
You've gone there.
Okay.
You can tell a friend, "Oh, this place is nice. I think you should check it out." So it is from social media that people get to see these places. There are quite a number of, a lot of young people, during the weekend, they go out for hiking.
For hiking, okay.
They go as far as
Hiking.
climbing, going places. So these places are there.
Okay.
So it's just for, I think government needs to really look around some of these places and ensure safety,
Okay.
because there are complaints that you know, these places are not really secured. So security is an issue because since it is now more like everybody wants to go these places and check out, there's the need for security around these places.
Okay. Okay, we'll come to security, then we'll also come back to what the roles that governments can play, whether local government, whether state governments, whether the federal government. But before then, Mr. Kayode, I want you to, you mentioned your ban, environment, earlier. I remember in those days, we had the open settlement patterns. Our compounds were not walled, didn't have fences. So during holidays like this, you can actually let out, allow your children to go and play, share experiences, socialize.
Yeah.
We don't have much of that anymore. So how do we get around, that? Now that we're talking about youth tourism.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's part of part of the price we pay for modernization and civilization. And I mean, we are getting more and more westernized. The African sector is really being.
But even in the West, there are safe spaces. There are open and safe spaces. Like in Abuja, for example, you see, okay, pockets of estates everywhere. There are really no safe spaces for socialization.
Wow.
I think something is wrong with that settlement pattern.
It is. I think we should developers, the town planners, and all these things. They are the people in this sector. I think we have a lot of role to play in addressing that issue. Now you see people, like you said, normally if you have an estate, there should be a recreation center. Yeah, where people, like the moderator say, it can come out, socialize, all these things. And I think security too. This sense of insecurity pervading almost all the people are more reluctant to let their kids out of their sight now. They are not really sure of what will be their fate at the end of the day. And of course, the primary assignment of the parents is to protect after providing food and shelter. Then, of course, to ensure the protection of your wards. So, we all have a lot of role to play anyway. The parents, the school authority, the society generally. We are but a drop of water in the ocean of So we all of us should do something like that.
Okay, now I'll come back to you, Mr. Jerry. In those days, our parents used to send us to the villages to go and learn our languages, our cultures, whether material culture or non-material culture, how we greet, whether we genuflect, whether we prostrate, whether we kneel down, all that. Because with westernization, we are losing much of all of this. Is this still practicable now to send our children, to the villages, to see our uncles and aunts and grandparents, to add some, to enrich their lives?
Yes, of course, people still take their children to the village, but you find out that with urbanization, rural urban migration, people are moving to the city center to source for better living. So and as a result, they get to settle at the place and raise their family. But that's not to say people still go to their villages with their children to, as you mentioned, learn the language, learn the culture and other things that
So if most of the children cannot go to the villages, is there a way we can bring the village to the children in the city? Yes, we could have agencies of culture here and there, virtually every state of the federation. Okay, so they can actually create a cultural center, where our children can go to maybe during long vacation like this, okay, to go and socialize. There will be an instructor, a choreographer that would, teach them local dances, cuisines and all of that. Don't you think the culture agencies should be exploring that option?
Yes, yes, yes. But yes, it should be in place. But it starts with the parents because the onus rests on them. Like when you mentioned language,
Yeah.
it should be from the home.
Okay.
You understand? You need to, because as it is now, you find out that most families, a child will be up to 10 years and cannot speak the language, of the parents. So that's a challenge. So it starts with the family. The parents need to take it upon themselves to relate with the children, in their language, so that they can learn from there and some other things that has to do with culture.
And I think there should, maybe we should encourage the more private sector participation.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I think this is an area where the tour operators or this they can tap in.
Yes.
If they are really creative and enough. Why can't we have people packaging? Okay, supposing these are the maybe just to look at the major ethnic groups.
Yeah.
It's okay. Let's just have some people who will come and, like you say, bring the village, the culture,
Yes, from the village
so
to
we
the
can
city.
just organize.
Yes. Especially now that COVID is actually disrupting
Yes,
travel.
yes.
Yeah, so we are not likely going to make so much money from foreign receipts anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
That reminds me that what happens every November is done by the Cross River. It's from the Cross River State culture.
Okay.
They carry out this cultural day every November.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they didn't do. It wasn't held last year due to
COVID.
COVID. So what happens there is they have this display
Okay.
of different masquerades and all those things, dance and all. So it's like bringing it from Cross River to Abuja. So it holds every year, and that helps to, you get to see those masquerades,
Those colorful
masquerades and
Yeah.
display. You get to see them in Abuja, not without having to travel
Down to Cross
Yeah,
River.
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
So,
So I think that has to be put in the holiday calendar, so that we'll be looking forward to it every
so if it is what other culture can do, it will really help to deepen the knowledge of
Okay. Jerry, you mentioned something earlier that another way of encouraging your tourism is to incorporate it in school curriculum.
yes.
Because from records, youth tourism is actually the fastest growing segment of the tourism sector. So how should managers, the educational system of Nigeria, should they do this?
Yes, it should start from, like I mentioned, it should start from schools, from primary
Okay.
to secondary and to tertiary as well, because by so doing, you're building their knowledge in understanding what tourism is about and the need for you to, know your country, know what some of these destinations. So from that primary level, it should be a curriculum, like a subject, you understand, to help give them that understanding. Then as you move ahead to secondary school, there should be excursions, not just excursion to for there's some not just the educational excursion.
Even though that's part of it,
That's part of it.
yes.
Actually, that's part of it. But it should be tied to other things that you can see and say, oh, this is beautiful. That has to do with tourism. So
Maybe a destination.
Yes, a destination to help them appreciate, the Nigerian tourism. So that will help, and again, government should find a way to these schools, schools and government should find a way to partner with private sector, to drive this, because they will come up with a plan, a clear plan that will, that the school and government can, come together and promote. So I think that should help.
Interesting. Okay, Mr. Kennedy, before we go on a short break, you talked about informal, formal youth tourism sector. How do we begin to formalize, much of these activities so that government can also get its own fair share, okay, of the revenue that is accruable or that's accruing from these activities, so that private operators, you mentioned tour operators and other stakeholders in the industry. How should we do this?
Well, the first thing we should.
Okay, I think we're out of time. Okay, so we'll have that after the break. So we'll go on the short break. The our discussion has centered on youth tourism, a specialty in the global tourism sector. Experts say that it is the fastest growing, and it is undertaken by youth who are between the ages of 15 and 29. So these people actually come together, they go on field trips, they go on vacations, staycation without the aid of their parents, just to have fun. It's, the sector is doing very well in other parts of the world, but here in Nigeria, like my discussants have said, they've said, okay, much of it happens informally. So after the break, we'll look at how we can mainstream this so that all the players in the industry can get their fair share, of this cake. We will be back.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Yeah, you're welcome back to the Last Word Podcast Studio. On today's edition of Money Radio, the tourism segment, we are discussing youth tourism. Before the break, I asked Mr. Kayode Falade to tell us how we can mainstream much of the informal activities happening in youth tourism, so that government can take its own share, whether state or local or federal government, and of course the private operators too can also, smile to the banks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, in Nigeria, almost everything revolves around the government.
Okay.
So we need to. The government has to come in, actually. And how? The first thing is by asking the tour operators to register. But before this, there should be, of course, there will be maybe a panel, a committee that will go to town, get all these various forms of the activities that are, then document them. Then you can now look at those who are participants. So we look at the stakeholders. Then of course they will extend their hand to them. Come, let's register you. Through that, of course, when you register, you pay something. The government gets revenue.
Yes, and these are taxpayers too.
They are taxpayers. So all of them come in and they key in. And of course, the voluntary organizations who have been doing it on their own, all these youth, Boy Scouts, Boys Brigade, this, that, of course, they too can come. Then all these people operating this hiking, mountain climbing, all of them should be invited to come on board. And of course, more awareness should be created. With this, this will ginger them. And like you said, it's the major population of Nigeria. Is it Nigeria? I don't know the youth.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's the percentage? I think they have youth is about more than 50%.
Yeah, that's the
Because
Nigeria.
they are majorly
That's
the
the promise.
drivers.
That's the promise Nigeria
Oh,
holds.
oh,
Yes.
so yeah, yes.
Yes.
Because other people
Yes.
they have lower
Yes.
percentage of youths
Yes,
and how
yes,
they
yes.
other
Like Japan,
like
Japan is
Japan,
grappling with
France,
old
and some of the
people.
Italy,
Yes.
most of these European countries. So it's an up for us here. So if you can tap on it, actually, it's going to really be beneficial to the country.
So we do hope that the government agencies that are saddled with, with the mandate of developing this sector would, take a, listen and, experiment with what you just said. Then you mentioned insecurity while you were talking about tourism, youth tourism in Abuja. Okay, so how can we address that?
Yes, security is a very serious concern, as a matter of fact. Um, in some of these places, these destinations, there's need to for government or government basically because it rests
engage their children online. Some do programs, computer program, coding programs, and all of that. But my worry is much of the activities you have online are unpoliced by the government. How do you see that?
It's very dangerous, and the online, it's like the garbage you put in is the garbage so it has to
These
be.
days you're online, you're not supervised, and you even get some unsolicited materials
That
from
may be
pornography.
misguiding.
Yes, from pornography to crime to all of that.
And when we talk of even these culture things, we don't have to celebrate the cultural aspect of it. There are some areas, some aspects of individual cultures that shouldn't be we shouldn't be given too much prominence. Those areas should be downplayed and others lifted. So I agree with you. The federal government should do more. Or
relevant government agencies in the ICT sector.
They should just wake up and up to their responsibility.
Sensitize their parents, sensitize parents generally, to supervise, online activities, by their children. Yeah, I think so. On that note, we'll call it. Today we've had a very explosive, very insightful session with our regular guest on this program. The topic has been youth tourism, how we can reposition it, how all the stakeholders can invest in it, and of course get the benefits that's associated with it. So I guess I've talked about the roles parents can play, the roles tour operators can play, then the various levels of government from local to state to the federal. And of course, we also have international organizations like the United Nations World Tourism Organization.
Yes.
Okay, so perhaps they should also do more, for a country like Nigeria.
But they say heaven helps those who help themselves.
Okay.
We need to show what
We need to show what we are doing, so they just come to a hand. Yes, I think so.
I agree. Then, of course, online activities. A lot of children are on holidays now. Parents should supervise what their wards and their children are doing online, so that they are not lured into, unholy and, holy activities that lead them astray.
Aside from
The last one.
Okay, my last one.
Yeah.
Aside from having them to sit at home and learn through the internet, they could also engage them in their crafts. They can learn our crafts.
The last one. Time is up.
Yes, So we should just try. Parents should have a lot of roles to play, and they should just wake up and not push everything to the teachers or to the government.
All right. Thank you very much. That's where we'll draw the curtains on today's show. Hopefully we'll be back same time next week. Bye for now.